Good afternoon. I'm pleased to have been invited by the Thoresby Society to give a talk today entitled The Origin of Place-name Leeds. Now, the Thoresby Society, of which I am a member, it's an eminent and a distinguished society. It engages in various funding of historical endeavours surrounding the history of Leeds, and I myself have managed to use some of its works in my various researches over the short time in which I've been researching history. So they invited me to give this talk on the origin of the place name Leeds. Now, you might wonder why one would decide to give a talk on these kind of things, or to investigate these kind of things. Well, the origins of place names, I feel they're quite interesting. There's quite a few disciplines that are involved in researching the name. And the talk is based on the account given in this book, this booklet which I wrote, which is available from that website, and you can actually contact me and I'll send you a copy if you're interested. The website is there, mathematicalservices.co.uk, and that's where you can buy these booklets and other booklets in this area. So, why study place names? What are the ingredients of place names? What do you need to know to study place names, learn about why a name is so called? Well, in England, in the UK, there's quite a few things, because quite a few people came here in the distant past, thousands of years ago, to found these places, to settle here. And they spoke various languages. They were the Celts, who were origins of the Welsh, speaking the Welsh language. There were many German settlers who, well, they spoke what's known as Old English originally. This is a form of German. It's not spoken in Germany now, I don't think, but it's a recognisable language, and that has many origins in German. In fact, the majority, I would say, of the words in the English language stem from German. The Anglo-Saxon settlers who came to this country, they came from northern Germany, the area of Anglia, northern Germany, the mainland of Denmark, the north of Germany, and just extending down towards the North Dutch coast. Those were the Angles and the Frisians, and they settled here a lot. They were followed by Scandinavian settlers who came from Norway and Denmark. I think in West Yorkshire it's the Norwegians that have had the most influence here in terms of place names. So those are that is the most important feature, language, when it comes to place names, original languages. These people called the topographical features of the area, the trees, the marshes, the depressions, etc. They had names for them, and these names were used in place names. For example, Bowling near Bradford, named after one possibility is a depression, a hollow in the ground, a bowl in the ground, a ball, the Welsh word ball, or the Anglo-Saxon word ball. In Elsica in South Yorkshire, it's named after Kjar, meaning marsh or car in Old English, and so on. We have many topological features, many features of the landscape which are used to form place names. And also place names named after man's activities. They're named after a man's name. Gummersall in West Yorkshire, near Berkshire. Guthma's Hall, the settler Guthma, or the band of men, the Guma, man, Guma, and Kirke, church. And many place names are named after, with Kirk in them, named after, I think it's Scandinavian, Kirke, church. And we've got the common one, which is very prescient for Leeds itself, Lear, meaning cleared land. So those are the ingredients of place names. Different settlers come, they name a place, they perhaps find an original name, they rename it. Names get transmuted from one form into another slightly different form, so there are many slightly different variations of the name, and they all get mixed up in how the name develops and how the modern name gets formed from old names and old sounding names. So we have the Celts, the Welsh people, then we have the Romans, then we have the Anglo-Saxons from Germany, then we have the Scandinavian settlers, then finally we have the Norman settlers from 1066 onwards, with the after the Battle of Hastings, with the Norman invasion. Normans didn't actually contribute much to place names. They weren't liked too much. And most of the names were formed by them as well, so they didn't have great influence, Normans. They had a lot of influence culturally and how people lived, the lord of the manor, that kind of thing, but not place names. The development of the language, well, various phenomena went on, both in Germany and in German-speaking lands and in England. We have the great vowel shift, which was a subtle alteration of how people pronounce things. They used the front parts of the mouth more than the rear parts. They said E's more than A's. E's said at the front, A more at the back of the mouth with the throat. So initially, a word like meat, MWT, would be pronounced more like mate in early Middle Ages until the great vowel shift. Then we have lenition, sounds becoming more ringing and song-like, more Nordic-like. If ever you've heard how a Norwegian man says very good, veldig go, it's more ringing, it's more song-like. And the general tendency, which I've found in both languages, German and English, is that there's more a tendency for making sounds with the front apparatus rather than the back. The Germans have done this with the umlaut, for example. The umlaut is placed after O, A, and U, and it's like adding an E to the sound. It's Geschutz is pronounced Geschutz, and that kind of phenomena. That's their way of handling. That's what occurred. That's their great vowel shift, if you like. That's more of an English expression, but I think they had a similar one as well. So we get on to Leeds. That's the River Aire running through Leeds. The Aire is intimately connected with Leeds, as we shall see. Leeds is a city on the Aire, and it's a city around the area of the Aire, and in fact, it may be that Leeds, unlike many other place names, is an area rather than a small place. Most place names are small places. They're where someone settled down, built a farm, cleared the trees, and started farming the land. But it may be that Leeds is more of an area, more of a term for an area than a small settlement. Now, we're looking at Leeds. Where does that come from? Well, there's two directions. Classically on the left, we have the Venerable Bede, who was a monk who wrote about the district of Elmet and Lloydis within this district, a district within a cleared area, perhaps within an area within the district of Elmet. This was the Venerable Bede's Lloydis. He was commissioned by, I think he was commissioned by from Rome to write about the Britons and about them, these fair-haired Angles, the Britons and the settlers after the Britons, the fair-haired Angles, and he was commissioned to write about them. He was a monk living to the north of here, I think, in the Northumberland area, and he coined the term Lloydis. Doesn't look much like Leeds to me, but nevertheless, that's what's believed to be the first attestation, the first writing down of Leeds, and that's Bede's direction. Now, in this talk, and it's quite I'm going to suggest another possible way in which the Leeds term became commonplace and has its origins, and I've searched high and wide for anything to suggest that this might be a plausible explanation, but I can't find it. But it seems a very natural one to me. I've looked hard in the Yorkshire Place Names book, which I can recommend. I found nothing there about this particular direction. If we look at Isle Ekwall's Dictionary of Place Names, he was a Swedish, very eminent English place name person. There's no mention of the etymology on the right at all, so that really is of my own making, to tell the truth. I haven't found it in the literature at all, but it just seems extremely plausible to me, and it seems to be an omission from mention, if nothing else. That is Elmet. In which Leeds is. It is the region bounded by the River Aire, the A1, or the A1 as it is now, the Great Northern Road, which was a Roman road, the River Wharfe and the hills just beyond there to the north, and peters out into this area in the west. So that's Elmet. Now here's an interesting thing which I've found. When you're looking at place names, it's often interesting to know what the topography of the area is like, how undulating it is, how hilly it is, where the undulations are, where are the nice little places where a person could settle. Why has he chosen to pick this place? You often find it's due to geographical features of the height and the land and the proximity to rivers. So this is a contour map of height. We have the scale down in meters down the right hand side, and this is Elmet here. This region there, that region there is Elmet. You can see it's a little raised enclave between the River Wharfe and the River Aire there, petering out towards the hills in the west, and that's Elmet. Now this map is available. This map is available for onomists, people studying place names, from Mathematical Services. It allows you to create a map for your book on place names. I just thought I'd mention that, as I developed that to do this study of place names. So I'll go back to Leeds. Now, how do you get from Lloydis to Ledes? Ledes was the mention in the Domesday Book. William the Conqueror's survey of his lands. So how do you get from Lloydis? Lloydis, it's a very strange term, isn't it? Very strange indeed. The O, the I. What's that got to do with Leeds and the E's and the D's? It's an unusual word. There's not many Welsh words like this. There's not many Germanic words like this. There's not many English words like this, to tell the truth. So where on earth does it come from? Is it a mistake? Perhaps it's, as one professor I came across suggested, whose name I forget, it's lost in antiquity. But have had a stab at establishing why. Ljubljana, that's Proto-Indo-European, meaning lively, alive, a very old root word, and that's perhaps transformed by German speakers, easy to say, the great vowel shift, that kind of thing, into Ljubljana, the E's inserted there. If you go to Google Translate, very useful, and type in lieblich, you see it's physical. We've got the physical river, the lively, frothy river, the violent, bubbling river air, full of life. So we've got the elements there, we've got the starting elements there. Ljubljana, the German lieblich. So the J gets dropped, well, that's common. Kjar was a word that changed to car, that's Scandinavian. It's easier for German speakers to say, English German speakers to say Ljubljana. So from there to Laban, well, that's a bit vague. The I gets dropped for some reason. Might be easy to say, might be lenition going on. The German great vowel shift, something like that. Laban to Leden, the B changes to a D. Well, they're what's termed homogenic. The B and the D, they're pronounced using the same apparatus of the mouth, so it's plausible. And that's not a big shift, the Leden to Ledes. Enses is a word, I think it's a Latin word. It's a Latin word meaning people of, a grouping of people. So that's the vague explanation of how Lloydis gets to Ledes. Once we've got to Ledes, we're at the Domesday Book, and everything becomes more straightforward. We progress to Leeds. This is a map by the surveyor John Cossons showing early Leeds, in which is described Leeds as Ledes. So that's not a big change, is it? Can believe that. So that's Bede, from Lloydis to Ledes to Leeds. But what about the other direction? The direction on the right. What about my postulations? Right. This is how the alternative argument goes. Leeds is the D and the E. There's nothing more concrete in that than the D and the E. Now, if you were to take a look at the place names book, that Eilert Ekwall's Dictionary of Place Names, you would find that there are the only place names in the UK beginning Lead or Led are in the Leeds area, and there's several of them. There's Leeds, there's Ledsham, there's Ledham. So this is a prefix or a suffix that is in the Leeds area. There are numerous ones with Lee or Lee, including Leeds, in the Lee area. Ledsham, Ledham, Lee. So the D and E are Leeds. The D and E are Leeds, and they've been so from antiquity, from a long time ago. Ledsham and to the east of Leeds was mentioned in the Domesday Book. And you just can't say this for places beginning having I or O, this rather unusual I or O, this rather un-English, un-Welsh-like. Doesn't like it. It's not like anything. It's not like any modern language. Not like any modern language at all. So this is why I come to the conclusion that Leeds is the name for a combination of the word lee, meaning clearing or meadow, either deliberately or naturally formed, and land, which is an English and a German word. Land means land. So we have land of Leeds. Easy to say. Means Leeds. Land of Leeds means Leeds. Leeds is this area where there are lots of leas and lands, cleared areas, and it's a clearing in the forest. There's many clearings in the forest, many cleared areas. It is what Bede thought it was, a district, a region, rather than as it has now become a big city. But quite simple. And so that ends my talk. That's what there is to say on Leeds. If you were to buy the booklet, you would find far more detail than my ramblings. Constructive argument and full of references. It's good to get into all these references. They're quite illuminating. There's quite a few old books in the place name area around, old and interesting books which describe place names. Some of the old books have got a modern take. I find I've got a very modern take. There's they're lost. Their knowledge is lost. It's due to societies like the Thorsby Society, which keeps this knowledge alive. So I'm very grateful for them to let them give this talk. Thank you very much. Goodbye.